Hello, amazing students, and welcome back to Easy English Channel. I'm Marco, and this is my co-host Erika, and we are absolutely thrilled to have you here today for what might be the most important English lesson you'll ever watch. Have you ever spent hours memorizing grammar rules only to freeze up when someone actually tries to talk to you? I used to carry around a pocket dictionary everywhere, thinking I needed to know every single word before I could have a real conversation. I would literally rehearse ordering coffee in my head for 20 minutes, only to panic and point at the menu instead of speaking.
Oh, Marco. I remember those days so well. I studied English for 3 years in school, got perfect scores on written tests, completed every grammar workbook I could find. But when my American colleague asked me about weekend plans, I literally ran to the bathroom to avoid talking. I spent the next hour Googling how to talk about hobbies in English instead of just talking about my hobbies.
That embarrassing moment changed everything for me, and that's exactly the trap we're going to help you escape today. Welcome back to Easy English. I'm Marco, and this is Erika, and today we're going to completely flip your approach to learning English. If you've been stuck in study mode for months or even years without seeing real progress in your speaking, this video is specifically designed for you.
We're going to reveal why your current study methods might actually be sabotaging your fluency. And more importantly, we're going to give you a complete roadmap to start speaking confidently within the next 30 days. No more excuses, no more delays, no more "I need to study more first." Before we dive into these game-changing strategies, we want to hear from you because your story matters. In the comments below, tell us, what's the longest you've studied English without having a real conversation? 1 month? 6 months? 2 years? Don't be shy about it. We've all been there, and your story might help someone else realize they're not alone in this struggle.
Seriously, share your experience, because today we're going to show you exactly why traditional studying might actually be holding you back from the fluency you desperately want. Your breakthrough moment starts right here, right now. The Study Trap Revelation.
Let me tell you about my student Sarah, because her story might sound exactly like yours. She came to me after studying English for 5 years, 5 whole years of dedication. She knew every grammar rule in the book, could write beautiful essays that impressed her teachers, had flashcards for thousands of vocabulary words, but couldn't order coffee without having a panic attack.
Sarah's story broke my heart because I saw myself in her struggle. This is what I call the study trap. And here's the scary truth that nobody talks about. The more you study without speaking, the deeper you dig yourself into this hole. Your brain starts treating English like a complex math problem that needs to be solved perfectly, instead of a living communication tool that needs to be practiced messy.
Think about it this way. Imagine trying to learn swimming by reading books about swimming techniques for 2 years, studying the physics of water displacement, memorizing every stroke technique, then suddenly jumping into the deep end of a pool. That's exactly what most English learners are doing with speaking, and it's why research shows that 80% of people who study English for more than 2 years never reach comfortable conversational fluency.
The cruel irony is that the more you study without speaking, the more intimidating speaking becomes. You build up this enormous pressure to be perfect because you've spent so much time learning rules. But real conversation doesn't follow textbook rules. It's spontaneous, imperfect, and beautifully chaotic. Exercise 1. The reality check. Right now, pause this video and try explaining your morning routine out loud in English for 60 seconds straight. Don't plan it. Don't worry about perfection. Don't stop to think. Just speak continuously. Notice how different this feels from reading or writing, and pay attention to where you struggle.
How did that feel? Uncomfortable? Frustrating? Maybe you ran out of words or repeated yourself? That's perfectly normal. And that discomfort is actually your brain telling you it needs practice in a completely different way than what you've been doing.
The gap between what you know and what you can say fluently is called the activation gap. And traditional studying actually makes this gap wider, not narrower. Every hour you spend in silent study mode, you're strengthening the wrong neural pathways for communication. Why your brain needs conversation.
Here's something fascinating that completely changed my understanding of language learning. Neuroscientist Dr. Patricia Kuhl at the University of Washington discovered that our brains have completely separate pathways for passive learning and active communication. When you only study grammar and vocabulary, you're building neural highways that lead to a storage warehouse, not to your mouth.
I learned this the hard way during my first job interview in English, and it was absolutely humiliating. I had memorized hundreds of business phrases, studied interview questions for weeks, even practiced my answers in the mirror. But when the interviewer asked an unexpected question about my biggest weakness, my mind went completely blank. All that studying felt useless in that crucial moment.
But here's what's beautiful about the brain. It's incredibly adaptable. Your brain needs what scientists call active retrieval practice. Every time you struggle to find a word in conversation, every time you make a mistake and naturally correct yourself, every time you have to think quickly to respond, you're building stronger, more flexible language pathways than any textbook could ever create.
Think of it like building muscle. Reading about exercises and watching workout videos might teach you technique, but your muscles only grow when you actually lift weights. Your speaking muscles, and yes, they're real neural pathways, only develop through the struggle of real communication. Exercise 2. The mirror method. Stand in front of a mirror and have a complete conversation with yourself about your biggest dream or goal. Speak for 2 full minutes without stopping. Explain what you want, why you want it, and how you plan to achieve it. This activates the same brain regions as real conversation while building your confidence in private.
The beautiful thing about talking to yourself is that you can't judge yourself as harshly as you think others will. You're training your brain to access English automatically, without the pressure of another person listening and potentially judging your mistakes.
Plus, when you talk to yourself regularly, you start noticing your own patterns. You'll discover which topics you can discuss easily and which ones make you struggle. This self-awareness is the first step toward targeted improvement. The Conversation Confidence Cure.
Let me share an absolutely embarrassing story that completely changed my perspective on English conversation. I was at a dinner party with my boyfriend's family, trying to impress everyone with my English skills. Someone asked me about my hometown, and instead of giving a simple, warm answer, I launched into a 15-minute lecture about the historical significance, the economic factors, the cultural implications, the demographic changes over the past century.
Oh no, you did the classic textbook response thing. I used to do that constantly. I thought using impressive vocabulary and complex sentence structures would hide my lack of natural fluency, but it just made me sound like a robot reading from an encyclopedia. People's eyes would glaze over and conversations would die awkward deaths.
Exactly. I was so focused on showing off what I had studied that I forgot the whole point of conversation, connecting with another human being. And here's the liberating truth that took me years to understand. People don't care if you use simple words or make small grammar mistakes. They care if you're genuinely communicating with them, sharing something real about yourself.
Real conversation is about emotional connection, not linguistic perfection. When someone asks about your weekend, they don't want a grammatically perfect report. They want to understand your experience and maybe share their own. The warmth in your voice matters more than the complexity of your sentences.
Exercise 3. The one-sentence story. Practice telling the same personal story in 3 different ways. First, in just one sentence, then in exactly 3 sentences, then in 5 detailed sentences. This teaches you to adapt your language to different conversation contexts naturally, just like native speakers do. This exercise is brilliant because it shows you that effective communication is about choosing the right amount of detail for the situation and the person you're talking to, not cramming in every advanced word you know.
Native speakers do this intuitively. They tell different versions of the same story depending on whether they're talking to their grandmother, their boss, or their best friend. Learning this flexibility is more valuable than memorizing 1,000 new vocabulary words. Breaking the perfection paralysis.
Raise your hand if you've ever rehearsed a simple conversation in your head 20 times before making a phone call in English. I see you through the screen. I used to write actual scripts for ordering pizza delivery because I was absolutely terrified of making mistakes or not understanding the person on the other end.
The perfectionism trap is so sneaky because it feels like you're being responsible and careful. But here's what I wish someone had told me much earlier. Mistakes aren't failures or signs of stupidity. They're incredibly valuable data that helps your brain learn faster than perfect execution ever could.
Here's some research that might shock you. A study at the University of California found that language learners who made more mistakes in the early stages of speaking practice actually achieved higher overall fluency faster than perfectionist learners who tried to avoid errors. Your mistakes are literally helping your brain rewire itself for better English.
Think about how children learn their native language. They say things like, I goed to the store instead of I went, and nobody panics or calls them failures. They get gentle correction, adjust naturally, and move on. But as adults, we've turned language learning into some kind of high-stakes performance where every mistake feels like a catastrophe.
The fear of making mistakes actually creates more mistakes because anxiety interferes with your brain's ability to access the language you already know. When you're relaxed and expecting imperfection, you paradoxically speak more fluently and naturally.
Exercise 4. The Mistake Challenge. In your next English conversation, deliberately make one small grammar mistake, then correct yourself naturally and continue the conversation. For example, say, yesterday I go to the store. I went to the store. Notice how the world doesn't end and how self-correction actually reinforces the correct form in your memory. I know this sounds terrifying, but embracing mistakes transforms your entire relationship with English from fearful and rigid to fearless and creative. When you're not afraid of being wrong, you start experimenting with the language, which is where real fluency lives. Plus, native speakers make mistakes and correct themselves constantly. We say things like, I was talking to, what's his name? Oh, right, David. Self-correction is a natural part of human communication, not a sign that your English is bad.
Real conversations versus classroom English. Here's something that absolutely shocked me when I moved to an English-speaking country for the first time. People don't talk anything like the dialogues in textbooks. They use contractions constantly, interrupt each other mid-sentence, say and like, and you know every few words, change topics without warning, and somehow still communicate perfectly.
I remember my first week in college trying to use formal phrases like, I beg your pardon, and it would be my pleasure in casual conversations. People looked at me like I had time traveled from the Victorian era. Meanwhile, I had absolutely no idea what expressions like, my bad, no worries, for real, or that's wild meant, even though I heard them constantly.
Real English is messy, imperfect, and full of shortcuts that make communication faster and more natural. And here's the amazing thing. that informal, imperfect English is actually easier to use than the rigid, formal language in most textbooks. You just need exposure to how people really communicate in daily life.
Textbook English teaches you to say, I am unable to attend the meeting due to a prior commitment. Real English sounds like, sorry, I can't make it. I've got something else going on. Both convey the same information, but one sounds natural and the other sounds robotic.
Exercise 5. The Eavesdrop Exercise. Listen to English podcasts, YouTube vlogs, or TV shows for 30 minutes and write down 10 phrases that sound completely natural but definitely aren't in your grammar books. Practice using these authentic expressions in your own conversations to sound more like a real person and less like a textbook. This exercise will open your ears to authentic English patterns and help you understand that fluent speakers break grammar rules constantly. And that's completely normal, acceptable, and often preferred in casual communication.
You'll also start noticing the rhythm and flow of natural English, which is just as important as vocabulary and grammar. The melody of the language carries meaning, too.
Building your conversation toolkit. Instead of memorizing endless vocabulary lists that you'll never use, I want you to think strategically about conversation tools. These are phrases and expressions that buy you time to think, help you clarify when you're confused, and keep the conversation flowing smoothly, even when you don't know exactly what to say next.
My entire English speaking life changed when I learned transitional phrases like, what I mean is, and let me put it this way, and how should I explain this? These gave me precious seconds to organize my thoughts while still sounding completely natural and engaged. It's like having a conversation safety net that catches you when you stumble.
Here's your essential everyday toolkit that works in almost any conversation. That's really interesting. Tell me more about that. I see what you mean. Actually, that reminds me of something. I've never thought about it that way. And what's your take on? These phrases make you sound engaged, thoughtful, and fluent, while giving you time to prepare your next response.
The magic happens when these connector phrases become completely automatic. Your brain stops panicking about awkward silences or not knowing what to say next because it has these reliable tools to keep the conversation alive and interesting.
Exercise 6. The Toolkit Practice. Have a 10-minute conversation with someone using primarily these connecting phrases and simple, honest responses. Focus on being genuinely curious about the other person rather than impressing them with complex language. You'll be amazed at how natural and fluent you sound. This exercise teaches you that great conversation is more about listening skills and genuine interest than vocabulary size. Some of the most charismatic people I know use relatively simple language, but ask fantastic questions and respond with authentic curiosity.
When you focus on connection instead of perfection, conversations become enjoyable instead of stressful. People will remember how you made them feel, not whether you used the subjunctive mood correctly.
Speaking anxiety is completely normal. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Even native speakers get nervous in certain speaking situations. I still get anxious before important presentations, job interviews, and conversations with people I really want to impress, and English has been my strongest language for years now.
The difference between confident speakers and anxious speakers isn't the absence of nervousness, it's the willingness to speak through the anxiety instead of waiting for it to magically disappear. Confidence doesn't come before speaking. It comes from speaking repeatedly, even when you're scared.
Here's a powerful mental reframe that changed everything for me. Your nervousness about speaking English means you care deeply about communicating well, and that's actually a tremendous strength. Channel that caring energy into genuine curiosity about the other person instead of excessive worry about your own performance.
Anxiety makes us incredibly self-focused. We're thinking about our accent, our grammar, how we sound, whether we're making mistakes. But conversation is inherently other-focused. The moment you become genuinely interested in understanding someone else, your self-consciousness dramatically decreases.
Exercise. 7. The curiosity shift. In your next English conversation, make it your goal to discover 3 new things about the other person. Focus entirely on asking follow-up questions and being genuinely interested in their answers. Notice how this intense focus on them reduces your nervousness about yourself. When you're truly fascinated by someone else's story, experience, or perspective, you completely forget to be nervous about your own language abilities. This is the secret that naturally confident speakers use without even realizing they're doing it.
Plus, people love talking about themselves and sharing their experiences. When you show genuine interest, they'll be so engaged in the conversation that they won't notice or care about minor language mistakes you might make.
Creating conversation opportunities everywhere. One of the biggest myths about improving English speaking is that you need to move to an English-speaking country or pay for expensive conversation tutors. The truth is, opportunities for English practice are literally everywhere, if you know where to look and how to create them confidently.
I started my conversation practice journey by talking to customer service representatives on the phone. They're literally paid to be patient and helpful with you. I would call to ask about store hours, product information, or account questions. Then I gradually progressed to asking for directions from strangers, making small talk with cashiers, and commenting thoughtfully on social media posts.
Online communities are absolute goldmines for natural conversation practice. Join Facebook groups, Discord servers, Reddit communities, or specialized forums related to your hobbies, interests, or professional field. When you're discussing something you're genuinely passionate about, the English flows much more naturally because you're focused on sharing ideas rather than performing language.
Don't overlook voice messaging apps and language exchange platforms. You can practice speaking without the pressure of real-time conversation, and you can replay messages to hear how you sound and identify areas for improvement.
Exercise 8. The Daily Challenge. Commit to having one English conversation every single day for the next week. It can be a 30-second exchange with a store clerk, a 5-minute phone call, or a 30-minute video chat with a language partner. Track your progress and notice how each conversation gets slightly easier. Start small and build momentum consistently. Your first conversation might feel absolutely terrifying, but your 7th conversation will start feeling routine. That's exactly how you build the speaking habit that transforms your English from theoretical knowledge into practical communication skill.
The key is consistency over intensity. 7 short conversations spread across a week will improve your fluency more than one 3-hour conversation followed by 6 days of silence.
The mindset transformation. The biggest mental shift I had to make was moving from, I need to be perfect before I can speak, to I need to be understood, and that's completely achievable right now. These are fundamentally different goals, and the second one is not only realistic, but actually enjoyable to pursue.
I used to think fluency meant never making mistakes, always finding the perfect word, and sounding exactly like a native speaker. Now I understand that fluency means communicating your ideas effectively and connecting with others meaningfully, even if your grammar isn't textbook perfect. Native speakers make mistakes constantly. We just don't notice them because the communication is successful.
Embrace being a beginner again, because there's something absolutely beautiful about the learning process when you stop fighting it and start enjoying it. Every conversation is a chance to improve and discover something new about yourself, not a test to pass or fail with permanent consequences.
Your English doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful and valuable. Some of the most inspiring people I know speak with strong accents, make grammar mistakes, and use simple vocabulary. But they communicate with such passion and authenticity that everyone wants to listen to them.
Exercise 9. The Progress Journal. After each English conversation, write down one specific thing you communicated successfully and one specific area you want to improve next time. Focus on celebrating progress and identifying growth opportunities rather than criticizing mistakes or dwelling on imperfections. This practice rewires your brain to automatically notice improvement instead of focusing on problems. You'll be absolutely shocked at how much you're actually progressing when you track it intentionally and celebrate small wins consistently.
Progress in language learning is often invisible day to day, but obvious month to month. The journal helps you see the bigger picture of your improvement journey.
Your 30-day speaking transformation. Here's your complete transformation challenge, and I promise this will fundamentally change your relationship with English if you commit to it fully and consistently. For the next 30 days, you're going to speak English every single day, even if it's just for 1 minute. No exceptions, no excuses, no, I'll start tomorrow.
Week 1. Talk to yourself for 5 to 10 minutes daily about different topics that interest you. Week 2. Add one conversation with another person each day, however brief. Week 3. Join online discussions, comment on videos, or participate in voice chats. Week 4. Seek out longer, deeper conversations about subjects you're passionate about.
Track your progress religiously, celebrate every small victory, and remember that consistency beats intensity every single time. 30 days of daily practice will transform your speaking more dramatically than 6 months of weekend-only study sessions.
This challenge isn't just about English. You're developing courage, confidence, resilience, and communication skills that will serve you powerfully in every area of your life. The person you become through this challenge will amaze you.
Exercise 10. The Commitment Contract. Write down your specific 30-day speaking commitment and share it publicly in the comments below. Include what you'll do each week and how you'll track progress. Public accountability makes you 3 times more likely to follow through successfully. Your commitment might look like Week 1, 5 minutes daily self-talk about my day. Week 2, 1 greeting or small talk with a stranger daily. Week 3, comment on 3 English videos and respond to replies. Week 4, join online discussions about my hobbies. Remember this truth. Every single fluent English speaker was once standing exactly where you are right now. Nervous, uncertain, probably overthinking every word, and wondering if they'd ever sound natural. The only difference between them and you is that they chose to speak imperfectly rather than study perfectly.
Your English doesn't have to be perfect to be incredibly powerful and valuable. Your voice matters deeply. Your ideas deserve to be heard by the world, and the global community needs the unique perspective and contributions that only you can offer. Stop studying endlessly and start talking courageously. Your future fluent self is waiting patiently for you to begin this journey.
If this video helped shift your perspective or gave you the confidence to start speaking, please hit that like button and subscribe to Easy English for more practical, no-nonsense English learning strategies that focus on real communication skills. And seriously, share your 30-day challenge commitment in the comments below. We read every single one, and we're genuinely cheering you on.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for having the courage to improve yourself, and we'll see you in the next video. Now stop watching and go have a conversation.